This rich discussion will be recorded so we can share it with our colleagues who are unable to attend. We are hoping to have time for a question and answer period at the end from the audience. So feel free to send your questions through the chat and we will try to get through as many as possible. We also encourage you all to stay after the panel discussion to complete a special breakout session with RAP hosted by Bart Campbell. So without further ado, I'd like to start with introducing Jermaine Henry, who will do a spoken word. Jermaine has a passion for storytelling, community building, and innovative artistry that drives meaningful engagement and transformation. He fuses his dedication to mental health advocacy with the power of hip hop, exploring his journey as a Black man navigating mental health challenges while working in community development.
Shay, thank you, Sabrin. And thank you, everyone. Welcome. And I'll be doing a short piece for Black Mental Health Week. Let's get into it. We are our ancestors' brightest dreams. Born from the black hole of oppression, carved from the fire of resistance, we rise. A constellation of visionaries shining across space and time. They fought for freedom with us in mind. We are the breath of their wisdom, the echo of their courage, the proof that they did not fight in vain. We are here. We are here in Black Mental Health Week, created, organized, and executed by us. We are the taboos. We are the well-wishers, the glorious light of those who dare to say no more. No more silence, no more shame, no more suffering alone. Our work is an offering, a tribute to the healers of old, those who whispered to wounded souls, who soothed the scars unseen, who promised healing is near. What if continuing their legacy is the way we breathe easier? What if every new Black psychiatrist we welcome makes our ancestors smile? Remember, we are our ancestors' brightest dreams. What if every new policy we shape, crafted with care, culture, and community, makes them grin with gladness? Remember, we are our ancestors' brightest dreams. Imagine their joy, their peace, Amani. When folks gathered to build Sapasi, imagine the hope, the power, the weight of their prayers answered when they fought to expand the vision across the communities across Ontario. So we honor those who pushed the mission forward, who fought, who led, who would not be silenced. The Dr. Akwatu Kenti, Janelle Scarrett, Margaret Parson, Nene Kafuli, Dave Dan, Chris Morgan, Floydine Charles Fidel, Nicole Waldron, Paul Bailey, Donna Alexander, to name a few. Their legacy is our lesson. So how will we continue to build? How will we lead? Can we uplift without exhaustion? Can we show the next generation that Black leadership is more than struggle, more than sacrifice, that it is power, it is possibility, it is joy? And so I pray for the leaders of today. I pray for the Black Health Strategy team, the Amani mental health substance use movement, for all those who carry the weight of Black mental health work. May you embody Amani, first within yourselves, then within community. Amen and ashe. Thank y'all. Peace, respect. You can find me at jermainehenry.ca. Thank you.
Wow, Jermaine, I think I can speak for everyone when I say that that was a moving piece. And thank you so much for blessing us with your presence today. Now I have the privilege to introduce our guest speakers for today on our panel. So I will start with Ainanea Ayodele, who is a CEO and principal of Ananea Learning Journey, Inc. She is unapologetically on a mission to influence institutions and individuals to create bold and meaningful change through a non-colonial, indigenized approach to leadership. She is a leadership coach, author, ancient wisdom teacher, and spiritual liberation activist. Also, she is the reason why we have Black Mental Health Day. She was the one who created this in the city of Toronto. So kudos to you. Paul Daly is a strategist. He's an urban planner and the executive director at the Black Health Alliance. He has spent the last decade designing interventions focused on improving outcomes for Black children, youth, and families in relations to health and well-being, community violence, mental health, and addictions in the social service sector. Mr. Bailey has been instrumental in accessing funds for the provincial expansion of Amani Mental Health and Substance Use Program for Youth, which is formerly known as SAPACY here at CAMH. He is the recipient of the 2022 United Way Youth Leadership Award and recently received an award for leadership in healthcare from the Dalai Lama School of Public Health at the University of Toronto. And lastly, Dr. Josiah Osage. He is a psychiatrist trained at the University of Toronto, where he also attended medical school and graduated as the valedictorian of his class. His clinical interests are wide in range, but are generally centered around the themes of providing mental health care for people on the margins. He is committed to nurturing the community's trust in psychiatric treatment services and is also interested in public dissemination of mental health knowledge. Thank you, panelists, for joining us today. I would like to start by asking you all to define what leadership is to you.
Josiah, you go first.
I was waiting for one of you grown ups to tell me what to do. No, it's a great question. And I think I've reflected a lot about this question coming to this panel because I have an interesting relationship with leadership. I think I have not really historically thought of myself as a leader. I think part of that comes from, my upbringing and where I come from. I come from a country which I love, but a country where my experience of leadership and power has been tainted somewhat. The place where I come from, people in leadership positions haven't always honored that role. And so I think I've always had this mindset that leadership and power is something to be wary of almost, because I think, there is a belief system I think I operate with that. Power can sometimes corrupt. And also, even within my experience in medicine, I think that there's of course wonderful leaders in medicine, amazing people who I've worked with and encountered who are leaders in medicine. But I think sometimes I have been wary of the people who have sought out positions of leadership in medicine. I think sometimes I find myself questioning their moral choices and their rationale for wanting to be leaders. So I think for me, leadership is something that I approach almost like with caution.
Yeah.
Because I know that leadership is something that if it's not handled properly, it can hurt the people it's supposed to nurture. So that being said, I also think that when I look around at my station, I think in my life, I am a person who, I'm a Black man, I'm a psychiatrist, I'm a physician, and I'm in a position where not a lot of people who look like me are. I'm in a position where a lot of people who want to be in this position who look like me don't get to occupy. And so there's also this sort of implied, you're kind of called to action when you're in a situation like I am in. So I think there is that aspect of leadership for me where it's, I feel the pull and I feel the call of community to be a leader and to be part of something bigger than myself. And I think that's where I start. That's my starting position when it comes to leadership, which is an interesting one, I think.
Yeah, it's one that I don't hear often, but it makes a lot of sense, right? Because you talk about all of this power that you receive, and when we talk about leadership, like I think we assume that leadership is an upward momentum, right? But I mean, sometimes it's downward. There's leaders that sometimes lead people downward or, are stagnant. So I 100% hear what you're saying. And I'm glad that you're bringing this perspective in because I think that this resonates with a lot of people. It resonates with me in particular. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Maybe to pick up on you, Josiah, or off what you're saying. For me, I don't know if I've defined it for myself, really. I think it's a journey, or it has been a journey to me. I think sometimes we kind of discuss leadership as like, born leaders, people are born with it, etc., as if you can't learn or cultivate leadership. When I think about the type of leadership I am and the type of leadership that I, look to, etc. There's so many, different types of leaders. There are leaders who are builders. There are leaders who are like deep thinkers. There's leaders who are storytellers and move people through story and like through inspiration. There are people who are coming up with ideas and innovating. There are people who are just here to steward the shop, keep it level, keep it set, keep it going. And then there are folks who are like the leaders of leaders, if that makes sense, like the mentors. And so for me, I see leadership in everybody. I see leadership as if like everybody has the potential to lead. Personally, I think I'm a builder. If I were to take one of the terms that I say, and that's the way that I kind of approach it. But every day as I do this work, I'm learning about the responsibility that comes with leadership. I'm learning about how to support my team better, in the ways that they need, which are sometimes like foreign to me. And so, yeah, perhaps I'll leave it there. Throw it over to you, and then.
Yeah, I think, I'd agree with what both of you have said. And when I think about leadership, I think about gifts. And I believe that we all have these we have these unique gifts. And in those gifts, we lead through it, I think I am very wary of defining whether somebody's a leader. I think you get to define that for yourself and how you lead. The woman who is at home taking care of her children is leading her household.
Yeah.
The person who is taking care of ensuring that our homes are clean, our offices are clean, or our buildings they're leading in their work. And so, in this colonized world that we live in, we like to standardize and decide who is better than whom and what leadership is better than what. I don't agree with that. But I also believe that when we talk about leadership, when I see myself or others and I say, here is a great leader, I am usually looking at how they lead their own lives.
Mm.
I think the best leader is the leader who has mastered themselves, however they're leading, whether they're leading in government or they're leading in a private sector or non-profit. How are you leading your own life? How are you leading your own affairs? Because it makes no sense for me that we say that we're the light and our light is off, And so I think that's I know that's the start for me. And from an indigenous perspective, and I'm speaking specifically African indigenous perspective, the community decides when you're a leader, You don't just go out there and have a flag and say, I'm a leader, let me hang this up now. It's about how we are naturally, how we are in community, how we're serving, how we are giving. And so there are so many ways for us to honor that. And I would encourage us to start honoring people where they are and how they are gifting. Josiah is a psychiatrist. That's his gift to the world. That's how he serves the world. He is leading in that way. He is supporting us in our mental health. That's leadership, So I would just encourage us to promote and elevate and support gifts, unique gifts, and see that as leadership. But most importantly, ask the question, how am I leading in my own life?
Wow, no, this is all like very, very good information that you're sharing with us. And what I'm hearing as you all speak is, there are many ways to lead, but there's either being a leader in status. So that's just being a leader. That's your title. I am a leader. And then there's a leader in quality. There's a leader in action. There's a leader in practice. So I'm glad that we're able to distinguish between the two, that anyone can hold the title of a leader in status, but not everyone is a leader. So with that, many leaders like yourselves experience moments of uncertainty. I know Josiah talked a lot about weariness and power and knowing what to do with it. And so some people, they may struggle with whether they're actually truly ready to be leaders, whether they're capable of leading, whether they have the skills, experiences. Also, we don't talk about the amount of visibility you open yourself up to when you do take on these leader roles, being seen in ways that we don't anticipate. So being exposed, being vulnerable. Have any of you ever opened yourself up to this or experienced this? I imagine yes, but if so, can you share a little bit more about your work up to the leadership role?
Mm-hmm. I'm leaving it again to my
Yeah,
wisdom young people.
I can start with this. I think uncertainty is actually a critical thing to feel, especially if you're occupying a position of leadership. By that I mean the world is not a certain place. There's so much ambiguity in the work that we do. Even in my clinical practice as a psychiatrist, I make decisions about treatment for people that I see, but I don't always know exactly what to do. And that's not because I'm not capable. It's because sometimes the right path is not always exactly clear. And I do think that being open to the uncertainty of the moment is an important skill to have.
Mm-hmm.
What that needs to be combined with, though, is a not letting the uncertainty paralyze you. Because when the uncertainty paralyzes you, that stops you from making decisions, that stops you from acting. So I actually don't view uncertainty in a negative sense. I think it's critical that the uncertainty actually also means that you're open to the humility of the process, right? Because when you're not open to humility, you convince yourself with a false sense of security, but actually it stops you from taking in information that could be helpful, that could be nurturing, that could be useful. So for me, like I've come to a place where I almost kind of like I look forward to the uncertainty. It means
You welcome it.
I'm in it. It means I'm
Yeah.
battling. It means that I'm doing the work. And the other piece is that we don't do this work alone. I'm part of a team. I have people who are smarter and wiser than me, and I have elders around me, and I go to them constantly. I lean on them. So I think that yeah, I'm in a different place when it comes to my relationship with uncertainty, because I think I'll stop talking in a second, but certainly with my medical training, there's a hunger for physicians that we feel to be certain, because certainty means that we're making the right choice, we're helping the people the best way we possibly can, we're creating the best outcomes, but actually the reality on the ground is a lot more mucky. Human life is mucky, and I think it's okay to be okay with that. That's
Wow, thank you. So it sounds like you welcome this uncertainty, because how else do you grow? Yeah, that's
Exactly.
very refreshing to hear. I imagine a lot of people in the audience can resonate with that.
Yeah. Great wisdom, Josiah. That uncertainty is beautiful. I've been in what I call named leadership. This is when somebody tells you you're a leader. For probably 40 years, or certainly many 30 something years. And I've gone through many iterations of this thing. But what I would say is that uncertainty is what stretches you. So get comfortable with the uncertainty. I can think of so many roles that I got into that I had no clue about. I'm okay, yes, thank you, and then have to go figure it out. And in the figuring it out, I grew. In my nervousness, I grew. In making mistakes, as leaders, we have to be willing to make mistakes. And we have to be willing to be okay with the mistakes, and be okay with the people we lead making mistakes and missteps, because that's how we grow. I think uncertainty is a wonderful thing, and we should never be afraid of it. If we're not uncertain, if there is not this little thing that say, I don't know if I'm going to do this right,
Right.
or if this is the right thing, then I think it's kind of like pee running down your leg. You know that you're doing it right when there's pee running down your leg. And you're
Right.
goddamn scared right now.
Yeah.
That's a good leader, right? Get afraid, move through it, don't know what you're gonna do. And I say that has happened to me right through my careers and recent. I run a business every day. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Do I know? Am I doing the right thing? But be okay with it and embrace the vulnerability.
Yeah. And how has that guided you forward? Like what keeps you going?
So for me, I am grounded in, I lead my life, I practice my life through African spirituality.
Mm.
That's me, that's my life. So what keeps me going is that. What keeps me going is my relationship with my ancestors. What keeps me going is my spiritual practices. What keeps me going is knowing my purpose, right? So no matter what it looks like, I know why I'm here. I know what I'm here to do, and it shows up different ways. And so I always go back to that. What keeps me going is this, what I feel the strong sense of obligation to my ancestors, being their wildest dream, like every day. Did I make my ancestors dance today?
Right.
That's what keeps me going.
Thank you. And Paul, how about you? Does any of this resonate with you? And if you've been in moments of uncertainty, which I imagine most of us have, how did you get the confidence to lead through that?
So the interesting thing is, I feel like everybody feels uncertain at a particular point. And I think, as Josiah said, that's healthy. What came to my mind as folks were talking was this idea of imposter syndrome. So, some people tend to feel, okay, like, I'm not a leader, that person's a leader. I'm in a leadership position. I feel like an imposter. And, I think sometimes we need to deconstruct that idea. If you've done the work, you went to school, you studied, you did community work, you engaged, you listened to your parents or your elders, et cetera, and you've done the work to build yourself to the point that you're at. You're going to obviously feel uncertain, but you have done the work. Nobody just dropped you there and you don't have no background to it. So in my mind, you shouldn't feel like an imposter. You've done the work to get there. I think the thing that we're missing sometimes, and I've had a tenuous relationship with it, because many of my mentors have been Jamaicans, and so if you're Jamaican, and you kind of know that, sometimes that can be a little rough. When you find yourself in a leadership position that's new and foreign to you, etc., like, your job is to, like, know what you know coming into the job, but then find the people that can support you with the rest.
Right.
You're not supposed to know everything, right? So I must be able to say, Ainania, I have this problem. Can we meet for lunch and XYZ? And every time I've actually stretched myself and done that, I've never heard a no. In fact, they pay for lunch, right?
Right.
So I think when I think about uncertainty, I think about the way that we organize ourselves, the way, like, what we open up ourselves to, and I think opening up ourselves to mentorship is critical and important. The other thing that I think sometimes I feel, or people feel uncertain with, is, like, the responsibility that it comes with. So I have a team of 10. We're building a charity, and I think we're doing amazing work, but I feel a tremendous sense of responsibility to my team, to the work that we're doing, to the integrity that we need to lead by, and all of those different kinds of things. Some of that's self-imposed, but then there's a whole heap of things people impose on you that I think sometimes come from a good place, but sometimes we need to kind of sit with and maybe not let us box us in.
Right.
If that makes sense. So it's good to have good, a back and forth feedback with the community, with the people who are in your space. But I feel like there's a lot of things that people want to read onto me that I have to reject, and kind of, find my lane, my comfortability, my boundaries, my identity, and kind of be grounded and strong in that. And so yeah, I think I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
and
mean,
can I build on Paul, what Paul said?
absolutely.
Because I think this is an important piece, right? Where these community imposed responsibilities.
Mm.
And sometimes as community we miss compassion and we have expectations of our leaders and we forget their humanity.
Mhm.
You know, we forget there is this human being. And also, on the other side of that, the leader has to really know who they are. That's why it's so important, because everybody and their mother is going to decide what we should be and how we should be and when we should do it. And if we don't, then we haven't done the right thing, right? The only way to get past that is to truly know who we are, so that we're not swinging from, it depends on what the last person said and what the last person expected, but to really know who we are. That's why for me it goes back to the grounding of self and the knowing of self, so we never get put off by what someone else is imposing on us. So I'm really glad that you brought that forth, Paul, because as community we need to be mindful. Both the leader need to be mindful, but also the community and how we impose on others.
Mm.
Yeah, those are very good points. I mean, I'm just thinking about like a day in the life of like what you all do, and it sounds like there are always people leaning into you, and you're exhausting yourself with all of your tasks that you have to do, people's expectations, and even your expectations, and then internal things that you're battling, like imposter syndrome. I know there are a lot of people in the chat that are agreeing with this. So with all of that, with the burnout, with the exhaustion, with that feeling of peeing yourself, the pee flowing down your leg, that scary feeling. How do you keep, like, despite all of that, how do you keep pushing? Why? Like, why put yourself through this? How do you keep it together?
So not to be cliche, but I think to whom much is given, much is expected. I think we all, I mean, maybe not say we all. I'll speak for myself. I find myself, yes, there's a lot of work to get here, but in a place of privilege, right?
Mhm.
And I think there's a responsibility that comes with that. I don't want to perhaps put that on all the staff at CAMH, but as I know many folks are on the call, but when I see the need in community, and I see whether you're a social worker or a nurse or a physician, psychiatrist, peer worker, youth support, we all have, I think, a role and a place, kind of in this. And I think I take that role and I take that responsibility seriously in my own case, very, very, very seriously. But at the same time, I think, one of the things that I've tried to do is, even in that seriousness, is to kind of just like not to take myself too serious, is not to try and be a hero, if that makes sense. Is trying to surround myself with other folks who can build me up and support me, as we do this work together. So I don't know if I've ever felt the PP thing, right? But there's definitely a fear, I think, that comes with it. And I think Josiah talked about this idea of like feeling like paralyzed, etc. I often think you need the people in your life that can give you that honesty, give you that feedback, the people who you can call with in the time of crisis, give a call to in a time of crisis. And personally, like I've surrounded myself with like my generation of executive directors who are leading the organizations in the different city, etc. The people who I look up to, and support me through that. So yeah, man, I'll leave it there for now.
So in practice, I kind of just want to dig a little deeper. So in practice, what does that look like? Like, do you guys hang out once a week? Like, how do you prioritize your wellness in all of it?
Um, eh, so me personally, it just feels like it's always go, go, go. So, I'm not often out for like once a week for lunch, but sometimes just again, like that call, the phone, or you could spend an hour talking to somebody, whether it's navigating through life or navigating through work, for me is a way of managing like the stress and the responsibility that comes with the work. And yeah, like sometimes I do, like I had the opportunity to go out with just a random group of leaders across the city, sit down over dinner, etc. We didn't talk about work. We just, laughed, chatted, and ate. For me, it those kinds of things, it almost builds you up a little bit for the next week or the next 2 weeks ahead, until you have to do it again. And then personally, like in my own personal life, like rum and reggae is a real thing for me. I like vibes.
Oh, I was waiting for you to say that.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's helpful for people to know, right? Like, I mean,
Yes.
we are leaders in mental health and addiction, and I think that it'd be helpful for people to know what recovery and sustainability looks like, right? Because we got to keep going. Like for some of us, I know you all spoke about the community and how large of a role the community plays in your life. People are counting on you. So how do you keep it going?
last thing is like I put that in there on purpose because I know where I am, but for me, when I'm in a party or a thing and the bass is bumping, where you can kind of
Right.
feel it in your chest, if that makes sense, that for me is life-giving. And so yeah, you have to create those spaces.
Yeah.
I might hold a corner because I don't want everybody to see me, shaking two legs, but that for me is the part of the wellness.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I feel people who know me and certainly know that like I take enjoyment extremely seriously. My family sometimes refers to me as the minister of enjoyment. Like I don't know if I'll ever run for position. I doubt I ever will. But if there's a ministry of enjoyment, I will be there leading that ministry because to me, enjoyment is this is essential. Like the ability, it's truly the ability to experience like pleasure and joy in my day-to-day life, it keeps me alive. It genuinely keeps me alive. And so I would say for me, enjoyment looks like a lot of different things. I love music. I love to go out. I love Paul, as Paul said, bass hitting my chest is a spiritual experience, and I take it extremely seriously. Um, and then I think as well with the work itself, there's many aspects that keep us going. One of them is the relationships we have with each other, as on teams or even relationships we have with other people in other organizations. Those relationships keep us going because there's a shared sense of purpose where we're walking in step together to try to achieve something. Whether or not we achieve that at every single step of the way, it's fine. I know that I'm not doing it alone. I truly cannot do anything that I do alone. um and then I think for me as well, like I have other practical things that I do. For example, one of my principles with work is, I call it the art of switching it up. I find that if I do the same thing over and over and over and over again, no matter how much I love it, except if it's bass in my chest, that's a different thing. But if I do the same thing over and over again, I can't, the dopamine return diminishes. So I need to create a week where I'm involved in different activities so that I don't feel, the ennui, that so I don't feel choked by the same thing. So I like to switch things up. Um, and then I'll say lastly, for me, with maintaining my my well-being is like I guess having a um you know being able to, how do I say it, knowing that in an institution like where we work, there are hierarchies, and there are there are positions and there are roles, and there's the boss people, and then there's the people in the middle and the people at so-called the bottom. But I think almost sometimes, like, deleting those hierarchies from your mind can be an interesting way to approach work in an institution. It's not that I'm not respectful with my colleagues or the people who have power over me, but what I'm saying is that I just play this game in my mind where I just view everyone as a person, like a
Mhm.
person who wears clothes and takes a shower in the morning and worries about their parents and brushes their teeth, and then that just makes my relationships with people like playful, and I think that that's something that is just like a inner thing that I do in my mind that allows me to maintain my wellness sometimes when I'm at work, so those are just some my little inner tricks that I use as well.
Nice. So like imploring like like see the skill of seeing the humanity in others
Yeah,
is a way to just push it forward. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. Justin Trudeau even like he like gets belly aches, like
Right.
he's just like a person. And I think something about that just creates playfulness in my mind, which allows me to do my work in a more enjoyable way. Yeah.
It does. And I think that there's this misperception that, being a leader means that you're on all the time, you're a perfect person, or not even a person, you're a robot. Like you just are militant, everything has to be right all the time. And I think that kind of deters people from wanting to approach leadership.
Agreed.
I mean,
Yeah, agreed completely. I don't want to over talk. I'm curious to hear
no,
what
keep
you
it,
say, but
we
yeah,
got
no,
time.
I
We got
agree.
time.
Okay, I agree because like I said at the beginning, I wrestle with this idea even of being a leader, right? And I think it's when I think about the traditional associations of what leadership is and who a leader is and how a leader is this person who speaks in a certain way and who moves in a certain way. I think those
Who
notions
dresses a certain
who
way.
dresses a certain
Yeah.
way. I know
Or
me,
looks
my,
a
me and
certain
my
way. Yep.
100%. Me and my mom we have a long running uh not a loving conflict about my clothing choices at work. But I think those notions of who a leader is, which are sometimes stereotypical notions of leadership, they can be trapping, and I do think that they can dissuade people from who are skilled and who are talented, who are gifted from pursuing, positions or activities where they can actually create change, so yeah. And the other thing I would just add to that, sorry, I'm just gonna add this.
Don't
It
apologize. We
it
are
needs to be
here for
said.
y'all.
I think the other thing I'll add to this is this idea, this is something that, again, I can't see this is everybody's experience, but certainly as a person in a leadership position, as a Black person, there is, as Paul and Anania said, there is this idea that people also put their expectations onto you. And those expectations are also sometimes norms and morals and values that they, in their mind, based on their life experience and their understanding of themselves and culture, they feel as though this is how a leader should be. Like they project the ideal version of like a Black leader onto you. But sometimes those versions don't actually match with who you are, right? So, I do find that they can be, for example, like a heteronormativity that is
Yeah,
associated
absolutely.
with being a leader, but I don't think that that actually is everybody's experience. So for me, like, there is this aspect of questioning, like knowing who I am, as was already said, but also being aware of the messages, both explicit and implicit, that are projected onto me and how to sit with that and navigate that. Some things I just have to, let it land and I brush it off my shoulder. Other things I wrestle with. So those are some thoughts.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And Anania, anything you'd like to
Yeah,
share?
I mean, this is a packed one, but it's a good one. So I've really appreciated what my brothers have said. Um, I I work hard and I play harder. You know, I love the rum and reggae concept. Like I rum and reggae and all of that and more,
Mhm.
I when I reflect on my roles in leadership, um, when I was so committed to be the so-called achiever, this thing that we are bred to be, and like Paul, I'm Jamaican, so there's a hardness that comes with that. I love being a Jamaican, but we kind of rough sometimes, right? And so when I was synced in that and about acquisition and what it looks like for other people, I got sick.
Mm.
I got unwell. I got physically unwell. And what I have seen what I know to be true is this other place that I've decided to be in, where I bring my whole self into every space, into all that I do. I have fun with everything that I do. If you're ever in one of my training, you go and dance. I don't care what we're talking about. We go and dance, right? And so to have fun, it's this dance in the revolution. Like we have to be able to have fun. We have to be able to bring joy into everything that we do. My name, Ayodele, means joy has come home. I live that name, right? And so it's about finding what your joy is. And I'm encouraging, especially our young folks, because I'm hearing you, Josiah, the resistance to moving into leadership roles, the resistance to becoming what you have experienced, And I'm saying that I'm encouraging you all to step into it. First of all, because we need you, but step into it on your own terms. People make up all kinds of stories who they think I am. And so usually when I have meetings, I debunk that real quick. I find a way to debunk that real quick, right? Because I have no box. I am all of things and I'm everything all the time when I want to be. But in the midst of it all, more than anything else, I am about joy. So I say, when we talk about the burnout, identify what brings you joy.
Mm.
For me and Paul, it's rum and reggae. You know, minister of joy, we gonna claim you. But decide what brings you joy because it's different for everybody. Some days it just means me calling my grandson and seeing his innocence and enjoying him. Other times it's being with my partner. But find out what brings you joy and do it over and over and over. And do it especially when you're tired.
Mm.
Do it especially when you feel like you've hit the ceiling. Find joy in those moments. I used to go into when I worked with the city, I was a bureaucrat for a minute. And when I worked in the city, this is how I walked into the office. Every day, I had my headset on, I had my music pumping, and I was dancing through City Hall. And I didn't care what else was going on. I was dancing. I was getting myself ready for this work that was ahead of me. We got to dance in it. We have to be filled with joy. And I'm going to stop. But I must say, and make sure you have a circle around you. Make sure you have a circle around you. Your system of support is critical for those burnout times. Right? And so for me, I have a group that we go away in the summertime. I have another group that we go somewhere with. I have sacred leaders that, we do crazy things, but I have community around me all the time. We can't do without community. I'm going to pause there because I'm sure there's other wisdom to come.
Thank you so much for all of that. Yeah, I mean, what we're hearing is, finding some sort of community or your village is very important in sustaining it. And this year's theme is leading with joy. And how do we sustain Black legacy and inspire future Black generations? I know there's a whole leap of Black people in here. And I feel like they really appreciate the knowledge and wisdom that you're sharing with us. And I think it'd be helpful for us to hear a little bit more about how do we do these things, right? Because I think sometimes it's easier to hear it or it's easier to say to do these things and actually stepping through, right? Because you open yourself up to vulnerability and the fear is still there. So what advice, tips, strategies, or other wisdom do you have to share with the members of this meeting and how they can move forward and yeah, how can you inspire the future generation to cement their place?
So I don't know if it's any additional tips, but I feel like there are threads throughout the the conversation. I remember finding myself at tables with a whole heap of big shots and stuff like that, and like feeling like, okay, I'm in competition with these folks. I have to like say the right things. I have to do the right things. I have to make sure the agenda that we're trying to carry forward is being heard, but not realizing, well, wait a minute. I'm 25. I'm not 25, no, but I'm 25. These people are 55. They have what 30 years on me in terms of experience and life lessons and wisdom, etc. It's impossible to try and compete, in that way. When I started to do what Ainani was saying was like lead with my gifts, what I'm good at, where I had prepared, where I had done the work, and what I guess what my natural gifts were is kind of where I found like the strength with leadership, or the confidence with leadership, etc. And I think sometimes my rub with when we have conversations in this way is like Black excellence or Black joy. For me, I think joy is important and critical, but I also can't pretend like I don't see the challenges on the road or on the TTC when I go home, or I'm sure folks on the call see the challenges every day in their work and understand what that means for the community. And so I have to try and like mentally compartmentalize and create the space for joy. Otherwise, like my personality is, I would just be, cantankerous all the time. I have to practice the joy. I have to be intentional about doing it, because it's not something that I naturally just go to. And so, as I was saying earlier, this idea of cultivating community to me is important. As I say, I was resistant to the idea of mentorship because people just, it's not like what they were. I wasn't getting what I was seeing on TV, where you go for a nice coffee and the people give you some nice advice, etc. It's just people just trying to tell you what to do and this and that, etc., etc. But then, once I open myself more to it, there are things that the 55-year-olds when they're 25 see in you that you probably sometimes can't see in yourself. At the end of the day, you have to decide for yourself. But there's a benefit to including those mentors, rough or the nice ones, in your community. That piece I find we're missing sometimes, the community, because of our kind of relationship to it, or the tension with it. And then as I said, you have to build your own. It's almost like building your mental health toolkit. You have to intentionally build that community. I woke up after the pandemic, tell you, like, all my friends were married and gone to like Hamilton and Burlington and all these different places, etc. Um, I feel like I can't remember the 5 years that went by, but here we are, etc. And at this particular stage in my own personal life, if I'm not intentional about building and maintaining those relationships and building that community, so that we can go on a trip, or we can just have people to talk to, etc., then I think it's easy to sometimes find yourself isolated. So for me, in a really practical way, I just think about like building that toolkit. Even if you're 55, I think you need the mentor, but as much for our generation, I think it's critical and important to find those solid mentors that can help you, whether it's through that new job or just through, the things that you're going to, because again, they've seen things that we haven't seen. They've experienced things that we haven't experienced. They can see things in you sometimes that you cannot see. And then I think, as I said from the top, there's a realness to the world. There's a realness with the issues. If you sit down and watch too much CNN, you're gonna get in a zone. And so one has to be intentional about carving out that space, that mental space for joy, and not get lost in the sauce. We've been here before with a lot of the challenges that we're seeing, and we've made it through, right? So it's also remembering that.
Yeah, thank you. So just being intentional, being open. I mean, I imagine a lot of people probably have mentors or informal mentors that will tell them to move forward for a leadership opportunity, or, put themselves out there. And they may be resistant, but I guess what I'm hearing is like, be open to that, like, because others see things in us that we don't. And I really like your tip on having your own mental toolkit. So having your coping strategies, understanding your triggers, and understanding when you need a timeout. So thank you. Anything else
I-
from the others?
Yeah, I would add from a practical place, in the midst, especially in the midst of I coach leaders for a living. Yeah. And I'll tell you this week in particular, every single leader I've spoken with, is having a hard time with the world we're living in, you know? And so I thank you, Paul, for mentioning that we've been here before. And especially people of African descent, we know what this kind of thing is like. And we have to take care of ourselves, especially. I don't think we have the luxury. We don't have the luxury anymore to not be intentional in our self-care, in our caring for ourselves, in the stewarding of ourselves. Because I don't want to just throw self-care around, right? But in the stewarding of ourselves. So I often say, even butterflies pause. So I invite us to build in pauses in our day. Even race car drivers, they take the 45-minute pit stop. So I invite us to take pit stops in our day, no matter how busy we are, no matter what is going on. Take pit stops. Put it out for me, because I am so intense. I know myself. I just get into it and I can't get out of it, right? And I'm just working. So I put it on my calendar. Take a break, have lunch, go for a walk. It's actually in my calendar, just like a meeting is in my calendar. Because if I don't do that, I might not take a break. And I'm not saying that I respond to it all the time. Sometimes I snooze that a few times. But most times I respond to it because I get annoyed at the snoozing, right? And so we have to, it's almost like we're going to take control of our lives and manage ourselves.
Right.
So we're managing our what we put into our minds. Stop watching the news. I have gifted myself with checking in with the news once a week. And my check-in is very brief. And I still know what's going on in the world, right? Because I can't take all of that in. I have to take care of myself. I invite us to check in on how we're going to bed. How do we go to bed? How do we go into that beautiful, our sleeping consciousness is so beautiful. How are we entering that?
Yeah.
Is it the news, or do we laugh at something, So I have a ritual where I watch comedy before I go to bed. Like the stupidest, craziest comedy that you wouldn't even believe I watch. That's what I watch so I can laugh. How are we waking up? Pausing before we jump out of the bed. Pausing before we go to that Instagram post. Pausing before we check that email. So taking responsibility, that managing of ourselves. And we don't have the luxury to not do this anymore because the world is upside down and inside out. It's correcting itself. We're going to be okay.
Right.
But in the meantime, we're seeing the pain. I go into the grocery and it's $200. And I wonder, how does a parent with children feed these children? You know what I mean? So it hits us. And so we have to find that balance in our empathy and our caring and our giving, and then giving back to ourselves. We have to put boundaries in our day. We have to put balance in our day. And then we have to find the joy. And then there's so much more. But I think I wanted to, just from a practical place, is just putting these things in place and practicing them as best as we can. Because, I don't know what perfection is. So we're every day just doing the best that we can in every moment. That's what I would say.
Thank you. I think it's very helpful for everyone to hear that, your coping strategies don't have to be the same as other people's. It's whatever works for you. And when did we even decide that we needed to strive for perfection? Why? No one needs to be perfect. So thank you. And Josiah, any advice or tips or strategies you'd like to offer the audience today?
Okay, well, I have medical training, which I often have to remind. Sometimes people don't always know that it's a catch as a physician. But as a medically trained person, I'm always thinking about the relationship between. Sorry, there's a there's an announcement in the background. I don't know if you can hear that. Can you hear that?
No, we can't.
Okay, I'm just gonna wait for it to pass. Okay, yeah. So as a person who is working in medicine, I think I'm conditioned or trained to think about the ways that our minds are related to our bodies. You know, I don't think of what happens in the mind as disconnected from what happens in the body. So what I'm trying to say is that if joy is an experience that happens in the mind, one of the things you can do practically is actually to attend to the body as well. So by that I mean looking after the body, eating well, sleeping well, being physically active. I think that we kind of neglect the ways that the care for our body can reflect on how we feel in our minds, you know. And so that's like a huge, huge part for me, I think personally. The other piece is that it's a lot of the same things that Paul and Anania have said. It sounds corny, it sounds cheesy, but genuinely, community is everything. Like, it's why we do what we do. Like, we don't do what we do because we are, you know, these kind of special. I mean, I think Paul and Anania are special, but we don't do we do because we are these, you know, larger than life special people. I think all of this is rooted in a relationship with real people, with like real community members, with people who we love and who we care about, who care about us, and we think about them, and we think about, you know, even sometimes in my work, you know, yeah, there's important ways that I maintain, you know, professional boundaries, but I do bring my humanness to the work, and I bring my blackness to the work. And I work with young Black people where there are moments where I almost feel, you know, this person could have been a relative of mine. This could have been my cousin. This could have been my nephew. This could have been my niece, you know. And I'm not saying that we need to always personalize our work in that way, because they can be, you know, there is a flip side to that where you can feel like overstretched. But I do think that seeing the humanity of the people in front of me allows me to, it kind of animates the work. It makes me feel like, okay, like this is important, purposeful work, and it's because of my connection with the community that I have that drives me. So I would say, like, it's not a passive thing. It can be a passive thing. You literally need friends. You need people that love you and that you love. And I think that is such a grounding, and it grounds me, and it also pushes me forward to keep on like doing the things that I do. So yeah.
Thank you. Honestly, like I'm loving this. I'm loving this dialogue. I feel like you all are sharing so much valuable information. And it's clear that you all, throughout it all, are able to cultivate and sustain joy. So I was wondering if you all could maybe share an example of how you do this with your teams, how you do this with your community or your organization.
How we do what? Cultivate joy?
How do you lead with joy? Well, it's clear that you guys cultivate joy, but how do you lead with joy? And how does it influence your team, your community? How does it influence your organizations?
Dr. Minister of Enjoyment, you go first.
You know what? I think that we have bands. I don't even know what I mean by bands, but bands is like short for banter. It just means like the exchange, the back and forth. I think this is like a gift that Black people have, like globally. We just be chirping. We be chatting, you know. And so I think honestly, for me, when I show up to work, I genuinely like the people that I work with. And so we laugh a lot. We have inside jokes. Like Nora is always texting me things when we're in the middle of meetings and I'm trying to look serious. Nora's always texting me foolish things, which I really enjoy, and I try to sort of like present myself as a serious physician, but actually I'm just laughing in the background. You know, so we have I think in the ways that we relate with each other, I think that it's helpful and healthy to be playful. And that also goes back to the point I made about trying to see, of course, understanding and respecting that there are roles and there are hierarchies, and those roles exist for a reason, but seeing the people behind those titles, I think, allows us to access a kind of like levity that I think is like crucial to the work. Yeah, I would start with that. And I'm sure when Paul and Ananias say things, I will jump back in. But I want to just, yeah, say that.
Yeah, so Paul and Anania, if you can think of a time that you led with joy and how it influenced your team or your community or your organization.
The interesting thing is this idea of leading with joy does not come naturally to me. So it's not something that I have led with in the organization, if I'm brutally honest. It's the team, the other leaders that are in the organization that have taught me to embrace, be open to, lead with joy. And so some simple things we do, like we have a Slack channel. Slack is like a communication platform. And we just have things like there's a channel literally just for joy and happiness and excitement, etc. We just share stuff in that Slack channel. It might be things about children, it might be things about life, it might be a meme, but that's where we do it just on a daily basis. We also just take time to like our work. We're not out there, laying bricks, but when you sit down and you listen to challenges every day, challenges that are close to your heart and in the community, it does have a over time like a burden on like you or us as individuals. And so we try and be intentional about just taking those moments, whether it's in our scrums in the meetings or we're going to take a break, etc. I'll say one last thing. As I said, it doesn't come naturally to me, but one of the things that we decided to organize last year, so we'll do it this year, was a staff retreat. It was new. We're a small organization. What do you mean by retreat? We have time for that? That was my energy. But we did the retreat. And in fact, I don't think we spoke about anything new, but we were together, we broke bread, we weren't thinking about like the day-to-day pieces of work, even though we're like having larger questions. And I can't tell you the personal, like just the energy shift from the entire team, including myself, from being able to take a moment and take that out. And so I think what I've learned to do now is to try and intentionally create those moments, and that's through the intervention of my talented team.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't want to be a hypocrite. Over the idea.
Listen, I love to laugh, right? So, and I laugh at everything and anything. And so it is always my hope that my laugh at least is contagious in the middle of the worst situation.
You have a nice laugh. It is very contagious.
And then people will laugh with me. But over the years, and again, this is something I've grown into, right? I've grown into, because I did have a concept of leadership that was very different from how I operate today. And so and I was in the financial industry. Like, so it was, I dress this way, I work this way. And but I'm healed. I'm healing. I'm healing. I'm healing. So, for me, it's a lot of what has been said already, is to do things take breaks with my teams, right? Wherever I work, however I was leading, is to be intentional in those break moments, take breaks, do retreats, step away from the work, have relationships. That's the big thing, right? And so even in team meetings, once a week team meetings or bi-weekly, however I had done it over the years, is the first half an hour, believe it or not, of an hour conversation is how people are. Like really, really, and not just how are you doing, just to ask, but seriously, genuinely pause and listen to what's going on for folks and get to know people, outside of this so-called work. It's this creating relationship. I think that's the biggest way. And share authentically. Share authentically about myself and my own challenges and how I'm working through the challenges, and find a way to laugh at ourselves. I think that's the only thing I can add as an offering. Just those break times.
Thank you so much. I just want to extend a big thank you to all of you, Josiah, Paul, and Ananea. I think that this has been a very fruitful discussion, and I feel like you guys have offered many gifts, and it is very clear to me why you all are leaders. And I truly aspire to be like half the leaders that you are one day. So thank you so much. Now we're going to open up our Q&A. We have several questions. I know the audience is dying to ask these questions, so I will start with the first question. So it says, Angela Robertson asked this very beautiful question to Lisa Robertson a couple weeks ago, and it is worth asking you all as leaders too. What do you need from us? So the people looking up to you, what do you need from us?
I volunteer Anania to take this question first.
And so I'm trying to understand the question though.
Yeah,
The people that are
looking up to you.
leaders, what do they need from me as a leader?
No, what do you need from them?
Oh.
Yeah, because people often go to you all, I imagine, needing things. So if we could maybe even do a reverse Uno and ask, what do you all need from us? Those who look up to you, right? Because we play a part too in your sustainability. So how can we support you all?
That's a really good question. And I would very quickly say to see me as human,
Mm.
to see me as human with faults and missteps, to see me as human. And what I need is your unconditional love.
Mm.
Uh,
Thank you.
I think an important question, and I'm reflecting on stories that I've heard or seen, where I think leaders have given everything for the cause, and they end up sick and in the hospital, literally sometimes on their deathbed, and everybody's gone. Nobody's around them. There's no support. Or they've given everything to the cause, and it feels like the cause has abandoned them. And I think both for myself, but I think for the broader, like to the broader question, I think the thing that some of us need is support, is for people to show up, is for people to support. We're talking about humanity, see the humanity, and sometimes I don't think it actually lands.
Right.
Like we're actually all, whether it's Prime Minister or Paul Bailey, we're all flesh and blood in the same way. We all need that support. And in some ways, yes, when you misstep, and unconditionally, right? So my message would be to, you don't have to support everything. You don't have to be in everything, but find the thing that you do support, find the people that you do support, and be there, show up.
Thank you. Yes. So no more lip service, just support. Absolutely. And go ahead, Josiah.
Yeah, no, similar to what has already been said. I think I personally what I look for is kindness. I value kindness, and that doesn't mean that you always tell me what I want to hear or that you don't push me, like Donna, I'm gonna name you and shame you. No, I'm kidding, I'm not shaming you. I'm naming you with love. Donna is a person who pushes, like she's a leader, she will push you to do things. But it's kindness behind it. And I always feel the kindness behind it, even if I don't feel at any given moment that I feel capable or I question myself. So to me, I think what I need from people around me is it's kindness. I think it gives us energy, and kindness is this sort of like, it's like this magical currency that you spend it, but instead of it being depleted, it only increases. Like when you spend kindness, you get more kindness, and the other person's kindness level also increases, and then there's just like a pool of kindness that we find ourselves in. I think I need that. I like that.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is, and this is a very good question because I'm also wondering about this one too. So, what does the Black employee do when Black leadership is committed to upholding the status quo and anti-Black racism in the workplace?
Woo!
That sound like
I know.
slide.
It's a doozy, but I mean, let's call a spade. Like
Listen,
anti-Black racism in the workplace is real, and sometimes it is upheld by
listen,
people who look like us.
listen. Anti-Black racism and colonialism and capitalism and all of the isms are not somehow only about white people, and it's white people who do this. We're all in the same stinking pot
Mm.
of racism and colonialism and anti-Black race. We're raised to be anti-Black, right? That's the reality. And so I know for me, when my first real hit at anti-Blackness came from Black people.
Mm.
Like I'm talking that, every day anti-Blackness, you walk every day anti-Blackness. But like when it hit you like in your guts, hit you like, oh my God, I'm not going to survive this kind of hit you. Because we are so unwell.
Yeah.
We are unwell. We are unhealed. We are still moving through the gaze of whiteness and colonialism. And we so desperately want to be white. Even when we talk about Blackness, Black Lives Matter. When we get to the heart and the soul of it, and when we have to truly practice, many of us, many of us are seeped and practiced in anti-Blackness.
Mm.
And so I think when I accept that as it is, I encourage folks, I know it hurts, but understand we're talking about systems.
Mm.
It's systemic, right? So sometimes even for ourselves, when we practice anti-Black racism, we are not even aware that we're doing it
Right.
because it's so nurtured and entrenched in our very being. And then we're trying to rise above the pit that they've created for us. And we're trying to be so special, and we want them to see us so badly that we will do anything. And
Mm.
that anything includes destroying our own. But what we're doing, in fact, is destroying our own self. But that comes from a place of unwellness.
Mm.
And so when I experience it, I just say, I say, may the ancestors have mercy on their souls.
Mm.
Because I understand that they're doing it from a place of unwellness. And so I try to dig up as much compassion as I can. I don't do it all the time. Sometimes I want to slap a person, but I really try my best because I know where it's coming from.
Mm.
Add to this.
Yeah, of course.
So this is where I think some of the things that we've been talking about rings true again for me. Like this is where your community and your advisors and your mentors, etc., come in, because there's a realness to it, and there can be two sides to it. Sometimes those who are leaders and put in positions of authority in particular systems and ways of organizing will follow a certain process or way of doing things. One, for self-preservation, or two, you might want to take a certain approach to it, but then the system gets used on you, which I guess comes back to the self-preservation. And I think we have to be real with that tension, the system that Anania is speaking to, that we're working in, and how we navigate and deal with that. We currently don't have other systems, or we haven't built those, or I'm not aware of those that can kind of deal with that specific tension of how do you do work in a decolonized way while you're working in the system. it's a difficult question to try and navigate when you feel personal risk in it. Second thing I think is um, there are some folks who have taken the time to build themselves up, build up their confidence, and build up their tolerance for fear, and like to deal with it. And I think, sometimes the expectation is that we have to be in an organization, be it CAMH or be it the City of Toronto or be it a Black Health Alliance, etc. And like every issue, we have to be the one to take it on. Sometimes it's actually true that if you don't take it on, nobody else is going to. But sometimes it's not. And I think you have to actually, in the case where you're in a specific situation where your employer or your boss is in a way white, Black, etc., where you're dealing with anti-Black racism, in a real way in the team, I think you have to wrestle with what it is going to take to deal with that situation, the outcome you want, and how much you're willing to put in, how much you're willing to sacrifice in that moment, right? We're talking about leadership and joy, etc. In my experience, the joy part is like 10%, maybe 5%, right? People think it's about like being on the mic, and getting the accolades, etc. When 90% of it is hard conversations, navigating challenges and situations. But I guess what I'm trying to say in this last bit is I don't think every fight you have to fight. And I think you have to think carefully about how much you're willing to put in, how much you're willing to sacrifice, and how you build community around you to support you through that. I think there are prerequisites to being able to navigate that piece properly, but I'll leave it there.
Thank you.
That was so beautifully articulated. I could not agree with you more. I do think, first of all, I'm in a bit of a spoiled situation where the team that I work with is, all Black and racialized people. So, we have this kind of, it's almost like a bubble sort of ish. And although we also interact with other layers of the hospital, but we have this, we go in, there's a solidarity, we go as a unit, which gives us more power, which gives us more of a voice. And that's not a situation every Black employee finds himself in, right? Like, you might be alone, you might be truly alone, or you might have other people who might think similarly to you, people who may or may not be Black, who support you in the way that you view things. And then you can maybe build a bit of a coalition. But like, I go back to what Paul says, you really do, there is an art to picking your battles, there's an art to picking your battles. And I think that sometimes as Black people in situations where we feel alone or we feel alienated, we're both dealing with that alienation and then this kind of invisible audience, this invisible voice that's asking us to to solve the issue, to be the person who fixes this thing. And sometimes it is upon us, it really is, because if it's not upon us, sometimes there's situations where it will be upon no one. But I do really, really, really believe strongly in knowing what is a battle that you can and should fight. And that doesn't mean that your commitment to, the cause or to liberation or to, all the things is not there. There's also just like, it's valid to also preserve yourself, I would say. That's not maybe a sexy thing to say, but it's the truth. It's the truth. It's valid to preserve yourself. Like we as Black people die of like cardiovascular disease disproportionately. And Black people in positions of leadership or positions of power also are affected by these things. Like we've talked about how we've lost people who, Paul said, there's people who are living, breathing, eating every single day fighting this battle. And, sometimes they die alone, So I think that there's a dance that can be danced where you have to know your circumstance. You have to know, who can I recruit? Who can support me in this? And is this a battle for me to fight? And I would also say the empathy and compassion can be helpful. It may not solve the problem, but there's something freeing when you understand where a person is coming from, even if where they're coming from is a place of pain, because I do think that sometimes, people who are, as the question said, people who uphold the status quo, that could be, some people's life history is such that that's the way that they've learned to survive in this world. They've learned that listen, I can get by, I can pay my rent, I can have a decent job if I just kind of learn how to reflect the system around me. And that's, people are trying to survive, people are trying to eat, people are trying to go on vacation. So I think that compassion map is helpful to have because it can inform how you approach the conversations if you do approach the conversations, but it can also be a bit freeing for you because the bitterness that comes from, why is this person not writing for me? There is a bitterness that can be born out of that, a very understandable bitterness, but that bitterness, it eats us, it wears on us, it consumes us. So yeah, that's what I would say. It's not a simple, straightforward thing. It's a dance. It's a bit of a dance.
Yeah, and I know Ananea started us with, learning how to master yourself, right? And I feel like, mastering yourself and picking your battles and, remaining composed and grounding yourselves, like these are all very, very useful skills. And, it's all about sustenance and moving forward. And that was our theme, right? How do we do this and not normalize the struggle, right? Because that shouldn't be normal. Like we should celebrate like the positives. And I think what I'm getting from this is just knowing what's important to you, knowing who your community is. Not all skin folk are kinfolk. So, knowing who your community is a very important part. Well, I mean, that brings us to the end of our panel and Q&A. Again, I just want to thank the panelists, so Josiah, Paul, and Ananea, so much. I think that we've learned so much from you all today. Honestly, it's been an honor and privilege to sit in this virtual space with you guys. I wish we could have done this in person, but I mean, this is what we have. I'd also like to thank the audience for participating and engaging throughout. I mean, we can go through the chat. Everybody is feeling what you guys are saying. I'd also like to thank Public Affairs for helping with all of the tech. Also the Black History Month Committee. Special shout out to Donna, because if she didn't push me into moderating, I likely wouldn't have. And yeah, just thank you, everyone. I think that now we are going to be moving into the second part of this session, which is the wrap session. I believe Leo will be joining us and taking over. So I just want to do a special shout out to Leo too. Leo is a huge leader at this organization. For those that don't know, Leo Edwards is the senior consultant for equity, diversity, and inclusion at the hospital, and he is a trailblazer. So take it away, Leo.
Thank you, Sabrin.
And I'm being prompted by our VP, Dion St. Clair. I apologize, Dr. Leo Edwards.
Thank you. That's not necessary, but thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So for those of you who are staying on, thank you for staying on. For those of you who are not, what an amazing panel we had, and the conversation was just incredible. So this was really, really nice. It's my pleasure to introduce Bart. And so I'll get right to Bart's bio. So Bartholomew preferred Bath. Bart Campbell joined CAMH about 4 months ago as a program co-facilitator with a collaborative learning college and a mentor for York University, Let's Lead program. He studied HR management at Toronto Metropolitan University and holds an MD Masters in Education and Adult Education from Yorkville University. He was a management professional for over 25 years until he was derailed by mental illness. Upon recovery, he had become a trained peer support specialist and a wellness educator. Utilizing his lived experience, training, and his certification as an advanced RAP facilitator to partner with Hope Plus Me and several community agencies to inspire people affected by mental illness. break free from self-stigma to enjoy a better quality of life. Put your hand together for Bath.
Thank you so much, Leo. Really, really, really appreciate that lovely introduction. And I am honored, totally honored to be following Paul and Enia and Josiah. It's a tough act to follow, but they really set the foundation for what I'm going to be talking about. And they shared a lot of their wellness tools. So as I embark on introducing or reintroducing you to our WRAP, which is Wellness Recovery Action Planning, and looking at it from the perspective of leading with the joy and sustaining Black legacy to inspire future generation, I want to welcome you, and put forth that although leader normally means leading a team, I think it's important, especially now transitioning into talking about WRAP, is leader of yourself. So we lead ourselves and we lead others. And it's important that, as the old Eastern philosopher says, to thine own self be true. So again, I want to welcome you. There's some housekeeping things that I need to just throw out, and that is language. My language might be different from your language, so please choose the language that soothes you and satisfy you as I go through this presentation. I mean, I can't beat rum and reggae, but hey, such is life. We're all to each his own. I also encourage you to turn your sound off if some of the things that you're hearing are too triggering or stressing for you to hear, and pay attention to the slides that are being shared, and take pictures to take away with you things you can reflect back on, that you can look back on, because WRAP really is either a full 3-day program or an 8-week program or a 12-week program. So to introduce you to WRAP now at this high level will not do justice to it in terms of you remembering the things that you need to do. Again, because it's in webinar mode, you can plug your questions in the chat and we'll revisit the chat after the fact. So moving right along, I want to start with a CAMH Lang acknowledgement and just say that CAMH honors being situated on lands that have been historically occupied by First Nations, oops, I'm jumping ahead there. The nerves getting better for me. Toronto and its surrounding area is the ancient for St. Lawrence Iroquois and the Huron-Wendat Nation and the Seneca of the Assadani Confederacy. Today, the guardians of the land are the Mississauga of the Credits of the New Credit Nation. CAMH especially acknowledges that Queen Street site is the historical place for camping and holding council for the Mississaugas. CAMH is committed to reconciliation and is working towards a new relationship and partnership that includes First Nation, Inuit, and Métis. We share this land together for the betterment of future generation. I also want to share an ancestral land acknowledgement. I keep jumping ahead there. I need to stay on track. So we want to acknowledge, I'm going to stop and start sharing my screen again because something's overlapping my screen. I appreciate your love as I do this. Beautiful. So we acknowledge that Indigenous Africans who were forcefully removed from their native lands and dispersed across the new world. This involuntary migration heavily contributed to the movement of African descended people across the African diaspora to places like Canada. As a facilitator in any group and in this group, I deem it highly necessary to invite us to think deeper and examine the processes that led to the disposition of indigenous people on this land and settler colonialism, stolen people on stolen land. In entering a conversation about anti-Black racism, it is important to center the humanity of Black people and Black families and to examine systems such as the healthcare system that act upon them. Source of this is Natasha Henry, who is the president for Ontario Black History Society and educational consultant and an historian at York University. She was also my classmate or schoolmate in high school at Bathurst Heights. So, my friends, I'd like to propose, after hearing such a wonderful presentation from Paul and Anania and Josiah, that mental health does not care about our job titles. And according to Not Myself today, there's about 6.5 million Canadians that are living with mental health problems or mental illness today. We're in it together. So it's important that we focus on self. And as I shared earlier, to our own self be true. So what is mental health? I normally try to level set this before getting into rap because we need to know what it is we're treating and what we're working towards. And so Mental Health Commission of Canada did a great study over a period of years, spent a lot of money, and they summarized that there are many different definitions of mental health. So broadly speaking, mental health refers to the psychological and emotional well-being of a person at a given place and time in their life. We all have a degree of mental health, just as we all have a degree of physical health. The quality of our mental and physical health can deteriorate, which sometimes results in illness. Some important things to consider when talking about mental health includes one's personal experience and their ability to navigate their way through society. When I'm in a rap class, I always say to folks that mental health is no respect of person, and when we don't develop good mental health practices, this can result in deterioration and our mental health becomes illness. A study done by CAMH in around 2015 says that 1 in 5 Canadians experience a mental health, and by the time a Canadian reaches 40 years of age, 1 in 2 have had a mental illness. A study that was done by Stella's Place says that there's over 500 young people in Toronto between the ages of 16 to 29 who struggles with depression and anxiety. Sadly, I didn't put that piece up there, but from a trigger warning perspective, about 20% of those folks try to depart from this world because it's just too much for them to manage. I also say to the folks in the rap class that mental health is no respecter of person. So famous people, I'm sure you recognize a face, at least from this crowd of people on the slide here, that struggles with mental illness. So it's no respect of person. Not only doesn't care about your job title, it also doesn't care about how you're born in this life. And so for persons like us that comes from a Black perspective, Jamaican background, slavery and all those things, it's just compounded by the challenges we have with mental health. But we don't need to believe in dire prediction for a future thinking we'll never recover. We can recover because with a rap, mental health is like any other illness. You can get well and stay well for a long period of times, and you can meet and work towards your goal and lead a very happy and productive life. In rap, we refer to believing in this as the process of recovery. Now, in every rap class, we establish a comfort agreement. Of course, we use the values and ethics of rap being a program to uphold a safe learning environment. But it's important for those who show up to be able to tell us what it is that they need to do to support themselves and hold them in unconditional high regard as they do so, because whatever they share with us, combined with their values and ethics, is what becomes our comfort agreement for the 3-day or the 6 weeks or the 8 weeks that we're going to be together. A sample of our values and ethics are these. There is hope, again shared already. You can get well, stay well for a long period of time. Self-determination. personal responsibility, empowerment, and self-advocacy are key aspects of every RAP training. Workshop decision-making and personal sharing are supported, and participants are treated as equal with dignity, compassion, mutual respect, and unconditional high regard. And we promote that there's no limit to recovery. And I know some folks are struggling these days with the word recovery and wellness, because recovery sometimes means getting rid of. Personally, I struggle with major depression, severe anxiety. I get panic attacks, and I hear voices, 5 voices to be exact. Do I get rid of those? No, but I know how to manage them now after many years of not knowing how to do that. Although living a very successful professional life, personally, I was a mess for several reasons. So recovery is how the individual define it. Getting up off the couch and getting out every day, continuing to remain in a successful job where things are challenging and you have to learn things all over again, or choosing to give up a job that is causing you to be unwell. To reinforce the recovery piece, we engage in a little breakout session and have folks read a document by Sherry Mead and Mary Ellen Copeland that talks about what recovery means in the context of the health systems. But after we do that, then we come out of that now having a general discussion about what does recovery mean to you individually. So as persons, again, going through a RAP program, they're not thinking about Bart's recovery or anybody else's situation. They're just thinking about themselves. And to reinforce the thought that recovery is something important, we reinforce that with sharing thoughts from people that are in the medical profession. I heard Josiah talk about connecting mind and body to find joy as a medical professional. Sounds more like something a psychologist would say versus a psychiatrist. But the reality is that is absolutely true. And so Dr. William Anthony agrees with Josiah, saying discovery, or recovery rather, is a deeply personal, unique process of changing one's attitudes, values, feelings, goals, and or skills. He goes on to say, it's a way of finding a satisfying, hopeful, and contributing life, even with the limitation caused by illness. And then he wraps up by saying personal recovery involves the development of new meaning and purpose in one's life as one grows from beyond the catastrophic effects of mental illness. Now, again, that's coming from a medical doctor, but sounds very much like a psychologist, but they've studied and understand. So this is what we need to be thinking of as individual. Lori Curtis, she's a mental health professional, not a medical doctor. And her definition is this. She describes recovery as not a place, but rather about looking at what was lost, such as rights, roles, responsibilities, decisions, potential, and support. We heard some conversation just now about, us as people of color being in the community, being in the workplace, experiencing challenges amongst ourselves. Sometimes that's because we don't know ourselves. We haven't done enough research to understand ourselves and know who we are. So we march to the beat, as my grandmother would say, of other people's drum. It's important then, as Lori Curtis says, not to focus so much on eliminating symptoms, but about what an individual wants and how to get there, and how others can support them while getting there. Now, she says, it's about rekindling hope for productive presence and a rewarding future and believing that you deserve it. Now, for me, growing up without that parental structure, street kid in Kingston, Jamaica, believing that I deserve anything more than just some food and clothing and shelter was hard. But thankfully, I found a wrap for that. Lori wraps up by saying recovery involves people having a personal vision for the life they want to live, seeing and changing patterns, discovering symptoms can be managed and doing it, finding new ways and reasons doing more of what works and less of what doesn't. Recovery is about claiming the role of a healthy person rather than a sick person. Recovery is about getting there. So once we've set that foundation and folks understand what mental health means, what recovery means, it's a safe space now we can start introducing folks to RAP. And so we tell them that RAP, Wellness Recovery Action Plan, was developed by a group of people who had been dealing with difficult feelings and behaviors for many years. And so RAP can help you stay well as possible, help you keep track of difficult feelings and behavior, and develop some action plans to feel better. It also helps to create crisis plans that will tell other people what to do when you're feeling so badly and you can't make decisions for yourself. So this helps you to take care of yourself and still be safe. Now, continuing with the history of RAP and where it comes from, RAP and the curriculum and the co-facilitation practice was developed by a group of people who had been dealing with very difficult feelings and behaviors for many years, people working towards feeling together to feel better and get on with their lives. What is now known as RAP was conceived by a group of peers in Vermont in 1997, led by Marilyn Copeland, PhD. Marilyn Copeland is that lovely grandma-looking lady with the red rimmed glasses on the bottom right hand of my screen and your screen. Now, RAP has been so successful over the 30 years that RAP has been sold. As of 2016, RAP as a program is now owned by Advocates for Human Potential, who had already have 35 years working with healthcare system and business operation through research and evaluation and training and technical assistance, et cetera, et cetera. So they've added RAP to their repertoire of services that they provide. And any RAP publication that you come across comes out of their publishing house at Human Potential Press. Now, why is RAP so important? Why has it done such a fantastic job, especially in the United States of America and a lot of grassroots agencies here in Canada? RAP is an evidence-based program. RAP was well researched and is an evidence-based practice. It is proven to help people feel less stressed, more confident, better able to talk with care provider, and more in control of their personal wellness. In RAP, like I shared as part of the value and ethic, we believe there's no limit to recovery. In 2010, RAP was recognized by the United States Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, also known as SAMHSA, as an evidence-based practice. Now, I'm very ambitious as a new kid on the block in CAMH. I'd love to run some pilots down the road and have CAMH do their own research on this program, and we come up with the Canadian version of evidence-based practice, because there's a lot to do with RAP, but if we can't get persons at a certain level to buy into it, and it only stays grassroots, it doesn't serve the purpose that it really can serve. So moving right along, it's up to the individual that shows up and participate in a RAP to write their RAP. They decide how much time they want to take, who they want to help them with it. So it's all about choices and options. The facilitators are trained and skilled that runs RAP programs. And every 2 years, we go through a refresher, because that refresher is sort of like our supervision, similar to our social worker would be supervised in their practice. We have to make sure that we're staying current in our practice to help folks develop their RAP, and we have to be living RAP ourselves. Now, overall, there's 4 parts to mental health recovery from a RAP perspective. We start with the 5 key concepts. So this is the foundation that we help people build on. Then there's the wellness tools. This is where you heard Paul and Anania and Josiah sharing a whole bunch of things that they do: singing, dancing, laughing, rum and reggae, lots of things they do, wellness tools. So you build a whole toolbox, because then the next part is developing 6 RAP plans that help you really take care of yourself inside out versus outside in. And once you've built a wrap, you have other recovery topics that persons can build a wrap for to go deeper in their wellness and their recovery. So if persons are struggling with self-esteem, for example, they might write a wrap just for self-esteem, right? Some folks might want to do a work-related wrap. So wrap is not just about mental health and wellness. It can be, how do I navigate my way through the work life, right? There's a physical wrap for some folks who wants to maintain their physical fitness. So there's 4 parts, and when you combine these parts, it's the evidence-based practice. So let's explore the 5 key concepts for a minute. So they're hope, personal responsibility, education, self-advocacy, and support. What is hope? Again, you can get well, stay well for a long period of time. You can work towards and meet your goals. You can lead a happy and productive life. And that's believing that you're on your road to recovery. Then there's personal responsibility. For some folks have never heard that. Nobody said this to me until I was 40, that you're the expert on yourself. You know what you need, and it's up to you to take personal responsibility for your wellness and your life. And of course, similar to the definition that Laurie Curtis provided, sometimes that means taking back control of what you've lost in the past. Those of us who take back this responsibility achieve the highest level of wellness, happiness, and life satisfaction. Then there's the education piece. Now, as you heard Leo read, I've got quite a bit of education, but I spent a lot of time in corporate life making all kind of money and improving bottom line, but never caring about how I am supposed to really be feeling when I struggle with these mental health challenges, something that's genetic and I've recognized that's been part of my family for many generations. So now I know about myself. I know about my treatment. I know what lifestyle sustains me. I know what career I need to stay in. I know what kind of relationship to get in. And what's also very important is my living space. Am I creating a space that satisfies who I am? I need a nice, comfy home. And leisure activity. I never walked into a movie theater until I was 43 years old because I was super religious, thinking if I go to a movie, it's going to be demonic and it's not going to look pretty good. But realistically, just engaging in that sometimes by myself is the best thing I can do about myself. But I had to learn that. As much as you have hope and you're educated about yourself, it's not always going to be easy. It's not going to be peaches and cream. And we've heard Anania talked about some of those challenges with the leaders that she's working with. So becoming a strong advocate for yourself means going for it with courage, persistence, and determination, expressing yourself clearly and calmly until you get what it is that you need for yourself, and believing in yourself. Again, something that we struggle with as a people of color coming out of certain homes that didn't provide us with those type of structure and belief in ourselves. But it can be as simple as doing some goal setting, getting some support, focusing on task, and also knowing your rights. In Canada, we have a Bill of Rights, so if you Google it, it will list about 25 things that you have a right to. When we share that in a rap group, some folks' eyes just pop open saying, really? You mean I have a right to that? Yes, you do, contrary to what you've been told. And then last but not least, as far as the 5 key concept is concerned, is support. And again, each panelist addressed this very clearly, that we need community, we need support, we need family. So RAP is saying that we need to develop a good support system. And it actually gives us a number to work with. So it says we can benefit from having at least 5 friends or supporters. So people that we can call on and tell them what we need and what we want. We can call family and friends and get together and have a talk and share and laugh and cry and be supported, right? And then once you are feeling like, okay, I know what's going on here, I have a sense of what's going on with me, then you can support others as well. Some of us are not blessed to have family members because, as I mentioned, my mental health challenges is genetic. So 80% of my family is somewhat dysfunctional. And still to this day, and even with me modeling success professionally, when the time came for me to be supported personally, Nobody wanted to support me. So I had to use a medical team, my doctor, my psychiatrist, my therapist, my social worker, my diabetic nurse. Those are the people who supported me. So support doesn't have to be family member and friends. And we make that clear when we do rap groups so folks can feel definitely like they're not alone. Once we're done with the 5T concept, we're now on to the wellness tools. And I think it was Anania that talk about a supportive tool kit or something to that effect. So wellness tools are things you do to keep yourself well and things you do to help yourself feel better when you're not feeling well. Here's some quick examples: getting support from friends or family, sleeping, enjoying peer support, people that listens to you professionally or personally, self-care, exercising, yoga, stress reduction exercises, and relaxation technique, studying and planning ahead to reduce anxiety, eating healthy. So those are some examples of wellness tools that we build into our daily plans. So then once we have those wellness tools, we guide people how to build RAP plans. So there's 6 of them, starting with the daily maintenance plan, then the trigger/stressor and action plan, and then early warning signs and action plan, when things are breaking down an action plan, and last but not least, crisis planning and post-crisis planning. So again, quickly, high level, what is daily maintenance plan? Okay, first part of it is describe yourself, what you're like when you're well. Again, nobody asked me these questions before, and I was doing a good job leading and supporting, but there was no joy in it. There was no joy leading without feeling good on the inside, battling depression. So when I was asked that, I actually start listing some external things, and folks have to say, no, not that. What are you like when you're well? And it took me a while to figure that out, but I did. And once I knew what I was like when I was well, now I can start building a list of things that I need to do every day to maintain that wellness. And then again, some things I do occasionally so that I don't get bored to continue to maintain that wellness. Here's some examples of what that looked like, not for me, but a collection of what folks have shared over the years. Some folks says they're bright, they're talkative, they're outgoing, they're energetic, etc. And the things they need to do is get up at 7 in the morning on a weekday, and so they can get to work or school on time, or they pack a healthy lunch or snack. They get their exercise, praying, and meditation that they need. This was key for me. I spent a lot of my life, even as a professional, not wanting to wake up the next day because, the depression, the anxiety, the panic attacks, it was too much. And then life wasn't kind in terms of some of the traumas that I've had to experience. So fortunately, spirituality was a big part of my daily maintenance and kept me alive to some extent because, being a practicing Christian, I figure if I decide to unlive, I might end up in the wrong side. And I want to be up top, not down bottom. And of course, some folks have to take their medication every day or vitamin. Some things we do occasionally: learn new skills, sailing, cooking, journaling. Wow. I started journaling as part of trying to make sense of why the professional Bart is such a rock star, but the personal Bart sucks so much. Like, man, it's like cranking myself up to go out every day and then to come home crashing again. Well, started journaling, and I was blessed to have my grandmother living with me at the time. And she validated some of the things that I'm sharing with you in terms of family and generational stuff that I had go through. Some of it was so dark, seeing that coming out in a journal, that I ripped it up a lot of times, burnt it, did lots of things. But then my grandmother says to me, you know what? You should publish your journals in a book because you've been doing that for 4 years now. It can save some people's lives. And so a few years ago, I published a memoir called When You Put Your Heart Into It, and it's a result of my journal. Yes, it's caused some rift in my family. Yes, it's caused some people to get bent out of shape because they feel like I shared people's personal details, but no, I didn't write about anyone else. As a matter of fact, I even changed the name to protect the folks. I just wrote about my experience. Last but not least, in this section 3 is taking a vacation or a staycation. I enjoy going away to my farm in Jamaica. I have a little farm where I grow Blue Mountain coffee now. I'm part of a little co-op there, selling Blue Mountain coffee and doing a good thing. So you need that kind of balance to maintain yourself. Then, of course, despite our best effort, External events might make us feel uncomfortable. And so now we're triggered or we're experiencing stressors. But we don't need to be dooming and glooming about being triggered. We shouldn't be saying, oh, why am I always so triggered? Like, can I not be triggered? Well, see this normal reaction and then take some steps to take care of it so it doesn't become worse. Here's some example of things that trigger folks. Problem at work. Yeah. Feeling overworked or overloaded. Difficult relationship with coworker. Failing to establish work-life balance. I was very guilty of that. I was in senior leadership, but I had to check the work for everyone because I didn't believe that they're going to make me continuously look good. And I was suffering with some imposter syndrome, feeling persons going to call me out anytime, saying, well, how did you get here at this corporate table? So I needed to justify my existence. Doing work that is hard for you or you don't like, traumatic news, low self-esteem, mental health, illness, family friction, financial problem, and the list goes on and on of things that triggers us and stress us that needs to be managed, or else we're not leading with joy, enjoying joy, and modeling what wellness look like. So in terms of action plan, you know, always saying, okay, what do I do now? Okay, you can talk to EAP if it's work related or your boss or your coworker. If it's family related, you can talk to your family member or see a doctor or a spiritual leader or a friend. Take a vacation again or staycation. And only when you resolve this trigger that you go back to your daily maintenance plan. You don't push it aside. You know, you don't try to pretend like it's not there. You do what you need to do and then go back to your daily maintenance plan. Truth be told, before some of us get triggered, we experience what we call in RAP early warning signs. So these are internal signs. So RAP triggers are external, early warning signs are internal, and may be unrelated to any kind of stressful situation. This is where my spidey sense start tingling, and it's been tingling since I was about 3. By the time I was 10, I figured something was going on here. There are subtle signs that we need to take a change. I used to have major headaches, not knowing where these headaches are coming from. So other people have shared these as their early warning signs: forgetfulness, anxiety or nervousness, inability to experience pleasure, lack of motivation, feeling slowed down, etc., etc. The list goes on and on. Just like with triggers and stressors, we create action plans. So surround ourselves with loving and affirming people. Leave work early or school early and get plenty of rest. Talk to a friend. Take a mental health day. Celebrate you. One of my big trigger was birthdays. Nobody celebrated me for 30 plus years of my life. Yeah, I was just too poor. Life was too hard and too busy, and nobody took time out to say, hey, let's celebrate Bart. Until a group of young people from church decided to throw me a birthday party. And since then, I've always celebrated myself, whether people want to celebrate me or not. So again, once you've rectified whatever is causing the early warning sign, then you can go back to your daily maintenance list, review that list, because sometimes you have to change some things, add some things new, or do something you haven't done for a long time. Now, my friend, despite our best effort of doing all that planning, you still might even feel worse. And like the situation is becoming even serious or uncomfortable. But you still have time to take action. But this action now needs to be assertive action, and it needs to be immediate, because you're trying to prevent yourself from going into crisis. You will help, and we help the folks in the RAP group make a list. Think back in time when you've experienced these and what was going on. So make a list of things that you're experiencing that led to this. And some folks share things like this. They can't concentrate. They're losing track of what they're doing. They're feeling oversensitive or fragile. Irrational response to others. Substance abuse. Obsessed with negative thoughts, despite doing CBT and all the things that you need to do. Unusual behaviors. Disassociation, these are examples. But again, we can take action. And this time it's, again, immediate, assertive action. So we can call a doctor or a care provider, ask for their advice, and follow it, right? Arrange for not just 1 day now, but 3 days off work. Arrange for somebody to stay with you, so you don't hurt yourself. And only when all of this is resolved and you're feeling well again, that you revisit your daily maintenance plan. My friends, despite even all of that, myself included, because my situation is genetic, I can do everything right and still end up going into crisis if I don't pay attention. But when you're in crisis, RAP also teaches you, and you'll do this probably 2-3 weeks or maybe a month or so, depending on you, after you've completed a RAP plan, because this is more like a medical directive or an advanced directive. This is things you're preparing persons to do just in case you end up in crisis. So it starts out, what am I like when I'm well? This one is a little different from the one that we do in daily maintenance plan, or it could be some of the same things, but this is just saying to folks, this is typically what I'm like when I'm well. And if I'm not doing these things, here's some things I'm going to be doing that part 2 says it's time for people to take over. And part 3, you have some supporters in here. Again, these supporters could be different from the ones that you have in your support list as part of your support, because these supporters now are more intimate. Maybe these folks might need to help you with your banking, take your dog for a walk, help feed you or support you. So the supporters you choose to do this are a little bit more intimate. It also helps, if you're not able to speak and represent yourself, to have a list of medication or supplement that you're taking. Let people know what kind of treatments you've had in the past and what kind of other complementary treatment. Some folks might not want to go to the hospital if they're experiencing a mental health crisis. They want to be taken care of at home, or they want to go to a community place that provides service or a respite center. And if they do decide to go to the hospital, it's not all hospitals that some people have preference. They might have triggers with what they've heard or experienced at other hospitals. And then part 8 is help from others. So, you might need your neighbor to come by and pick up your mail for you, so your mail is not piling up. So those are other things that person can do. And then last but not least, on the 9th part of the crisis plan is when to inactivate the crisis plan. So you're going to list some things that you're able to do. And when you're able to do that, that means the crisis plan is no longer necessary. Coming out of crisis, though, we always want to assess how well things went. So we want to assess by doing a post-crisis plan that comes with 3 parts. So is it time for me to take everything back? Am I back to my baseline in terms of wellness? Do I feel ready to start taking on some of my responsibilities? Who do I need to apologize to because I treated some people really bad while I was in crisis? And that, my friend, is a wrap. Then once you've built your wrap, as I said earlier, you can always go ahead now and build a bigger wrap that now talks about self-esteem, changing negative thoughts, peer support, work-related experience, trauma recovery, suicide prevention, etc. So in summary, the other recovery topics helps us to improve self-esteem, find strategies to lessen negative thoughts, understand and honor our needs, stay motivated on our wellness journey, find ways to bring more wellness into our lives, living space, work environment, relationship, and overall recovery, prevent self-harm, and start exploring ways to heal past trauma. So all of what Paul, Anania, and Josiah shared, and there was a lot of how, this is what we do in RAP to help people from a personal perspective take personal responsibility for their life. And so I'm going to just share a quick 2-minute story. I feel like I've been talking forever, but this story highlights the importance of modeling leadership through joy, mental wellness, and resilience.
Wow, what a journey. My name is Bart Campbell, and I believe in wellness and recovery and that process because it saved life. It saved my life. I have struggled with mental health challenges for as long as I've had brown skin. And as you can tell, that's quite a long time. And mental health has ran deep in my family for many generations. very, very early in my life, like as young as 3, I recognized the dysfunctions in my family. And as I got older, I started saying to myself, listen, I'm going to get educated. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to have money, and that will cure my mental health challenges. I won't have these problems. And so, of course, despite some other major traumas that I've gone through up until that point in my life, I was still able to carve out a really nice, successful life. At 35, I was already financially independent and doing really well. And of course, after a fact, I started helping other people doing the same thing. So I was at the top of my game, but that wasn't enough to take care of some of the things that were going on inside that wasn't working. And so it wasn't only a matter of time where the marriage, the house, the cars, none of this caused me to feel well and led to one of the most, still to this day, major health crisis in my life. So the trigger started around 2009, and by 2011, I was out of it and hospitalized and really couldn't help myself anymore. And so I was introduced, after going through help with my doctor and the team, RAP, and RAP kind of helped me create a framework as how to manage my life and take care of the ebbs and flow of life. And eventually, when I went back to work after my crisis and went through some challenges there and was given the golden handshake, I was now free to, yay, become the CEO of my own life, and started doing things that is going to cause me to feel hope, take responsibility, be educated about what's going on with me, advocate, build a great support system. And so finally, after 45 years of ignoring all this mental health stuff, I embrace it and I embrace recovery. And so it's been about 6 years now that I can actively say that I've been living in recovery, and being able to do so. And I'm now able to be like an ambassador for mental health and wellness. And I'm able to model not just what it's like to feel and function well anymore, but also to live well. I live a great life despite having mental health challenges.
We are barely 6 weeks in.
Do you know what apple cider?
Ooh. Ooh.
You can tell that I've been spoiled over the years, having persons do all my technical stuff for me instead of me doing it myself. But for other information, you can always look up Wellness Recovery and actionplan.com to connect to the Copeland Center if you want resources to learn anything more about RAP and what kind of support system RAP can provide you, what kind of tools. It's an awesome peer support program. I can tell you that for sure. For 14 years, it's done an amazing job for me. And so now I'll end here and ask if there are any questions. All right, seems so I don't know how to open the meeting and end the webinar mode and go into regular mode. So I can't see the chat or the questions. So if there's anyone on the chat that knows how to do that, please let me know and I can make you co-host and you can open it up so I can answer some questions. All right, so I'm seeing some of the questions now in the chat. Where can people take a rap course? Stay tuned. There's lots of rap going on in the community right now. But we'll be bringing rap to CAMH soon. Can we open the meeting? Yes, that's me asking if somebody can assist me with opening the meeting. Do you have slides with the cover of your book? Yes, I do. Come back tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm doing an in-person one, or I don't know if you're close enough, but I'm doing an in-person version of this downstairs in the patient and family section. So those who would like to see me in person, and that presentation is similar. It's talking about rap, but it takes on a more BIPOC or Black approach. So I'll share some of my history as well. Didn't necessarily want to share my family members on this big platform and cause embarrassment for anyone, but that in-person meeting, I'll give you guys a more in-depth behind the scenes, and I'll share details about my books, because I have 2 books out there actually, and one is my memoir and one's just a practical guide. But yes, at CAMH, yes, we'll be trying to do some rap at CAMH through the Collaborative Learning College. We're in the process now looking at that. Thank you, Bart. Great presentation. Thank you, Sheila. Thanks, Bart. Genuine presentation. Yeah, forgive my nervousness and everything else. Amazing presentation. Thank you. Learned a lot today. Stay tuned for more. From Tony, thank you. I will search for your book. Great resource. Awesome. So I think those are all the chat that I see. The rest goes back to Paul and Leo and all of those folks. So at this point, I'm going to end the presentation then, and see you guys tomorrow, or look me up in Insight, and make the connection, and we'll keep rapping. All right, take care. Thank you guys very much for coming out. God bless you. Walk good.